The Mets closed up the first half with a series win against the Royals. Everybody can't stop talking about the MLB All-Star Game. And it's our guy Jack's birthday on this edition of the Bleav in Mets podcast. So if you're watching the video version of the program and you see what appears to be a UFO landing above Jack, no, that is just party streamers that are up in his office to celebrate his birthday today. Jack, happy birthday. How are you, my friend?
Thank you, Chris. I am good. It's nice to be back and talking about Mets baseball, talk about the Royal Series, coming off a series win, like you said, and then all four Mets got to participate in the All-Star game yesterday, and it was a fun win for the National League.
Yeah, very fun win for baseball, I think, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But recapping the Royal Series really quickly, I think the big takeaway, not just the fact that the Mets won the series going into the All-Star break, but it was the return of Kodai Senga to this rotation. It was the return of Sean Manaea to this rotation. And, I mean, can you get any better than what those two guys were able to offer the New York Mets over the weekend? Kodai Senga looked great. Looked every bit the dominant pitcher that he was before he got hurt. And Sean Manaea on Sunday looked like he hadn't missed a beat. It was as if he had been pitching all season for this team. Did not look rusty at all. Did not look like somebody who had that much time off. And so for a New York Mets team that does have some holes to fill ahead of the trade deadline, I just do not feel like rotation is going to be one of them now that they are fully healthy, ready to go. Their dream rotation that they built over the winter is fully healthy to start the second half of the season.
It feels good. It feels like things are trending in the right direction. And Chris, that's not mentioning Mark Vientos, who we brought up last episode, maybe turning the corner, did not go hitless in a single game in this series. And in fact, bases clearing double to put the Mets ahead in the first game, had a triple that was probably a home run. And I mean, I actually looked it up. It was definitely a home run at Citi Field in the finale. If Vientos is turning a corner and we got the Fab Four and the rotation is back, I'm starting to get pulled back in, Chris.
See,
they're pulling me back in.
You and I are Marvel guys, so you'll get this reference. And anybody out there who loves Marvel movies, this is the Hawkeye in the rain. Don't do that. Don't give me hope. Like that's this moment. This series for Mark Vientos is that moment for all of us. And then you got Francisco Alvarez hitting 280 something down in AAA since being sent back down there to work on some things and to kind of clear his mind. And yeah, I mean, this was just a really good series. Disappointed that they couldn't finish off the sweep, especially with how good Clay Holmes and Sean Manaea pitched, especially with how the Mets were able to rally in this series, especially in the first game, scoring 7 runs in the 7th and 8th innings of that game, or in the 8th and 9th innings, to win that game and show off the offense. And the Fab Four was great. So you're a little disappointed that they didn't get the sweep, but series wins, man. Just continue to stack these series wins, and the Mets are going to be in a really good spot. And if before the season I would have told you that at the All-Star break, the Mets would be within one series striking distance of the Philadelphia Phillies for first place in the NL East, you would have taken it. So it's all about perspective, I think, and that's what the All-Star break kind of provides. But the Mets did what they were supposed to do going into Kansas City and taking 2 out of 3, and you checked all the boxes. Offense looked good over the weekend. Pitching was all there. Got to see Sean Manaea, #OurAce. Got to see Kodai Senga look great. I mean, it was just, other than the sweep, I don't think you could have a better weekend for the New York Mets.
And we also haven't mentioned Frankie Montas, who had a decent start. Yeah, definitely something of a bounce back after giving up 10 runs across his last 2 starts against the Pirates and the Yankees. And so to see him go 5, struggled a little bit in the 6th, gave up a couple back-to-back doubles, and so they had to pull him a little bit early. He was at like 80-ish pitches.
Yeah, but like, put up 5 zeros, 5 scoreless innings. It was the 6th where it went sideways for him.
Exactly. And so if you're able to get that from him, and you get, like you said, Manaea's back, Senga's back, Peterson off his All-Star game appearance has been looking good over his last couple of starts. So things are really trending in the right direction, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Mets still are willing to supplement this team with the upcoming trade deadline, because I think we've talked about it a lot. There's still some holes in this roster, but it's nice to see the guys who are already there contributing in the ways that they have been.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I think if you asked Mets fans what the biggest problem with this team, what the biggest problems were, I think they would say a lack of rotational depth. They would say a lineup that is 4 guys and that's it, and a bullpen that has 1 guy that you trust. I think now, if you ask that question 2 weeks later, the answer would shift to they need 2 bullpen arms and they need 1 more bat. I think rotation is off the table because David Peterson is healthy, Clay Holmes is healthy, Kodai Senga is healthy. They just got Sean Manaea back. They have I know this is a ton of pressure to put on these kids, but I do think if they needed a starter, they would just turn to the prospects. You cannot address every single need you have at a trade deadline. It just doesn't work that way. There's too many moving parts. There's a supply and demand issue. And so I think the Mets, if you look at their current system and their current AAA roster, they would feel way more comfortable filling their rotational needs from within compared to their offensive needs from within or their bullpen needs from within. They've gone through basically everybody they've got out there in that bullpen. So it just feels like the priority is going to be, hey, we're going to get a bat. Is it going to be a big bat? I don't know. I don't know if Eugenio Suarez is coming. I don't know if they're going to add a bat of that caliber. Are they going to add somebody? I think so. Are they definitely going to add bullpen arms? Yeah, David Stearns is probably going to add 4 bullpen arms, knowing him. 2 guys that are known commodities and 2 dart throws like Huascar Brazaban was last year. And in 6 months, we're going to be like, oh, David Stearns is a genius. Like that feels like the approach that they're going to take. They're going to be extremely methodical, extremely precise. They're not going to mortgage the future. They're not going to give up a ton of prospects. And you have to feel like, listen, this team's 55-42. They're a half game out of the division. This is not a team that is hovering around a wild card spot and they need a bunch to get them over the top. They are just trying to fill in some of the gaps. And I think that's going to be their approach here with 15 days until the deadline.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It looks like the bullpen is going to be the biggest thing. It's really unfortunate what has happened with injuries to some guys that were contributing early in the year. That's kind of just the nature of the beast with pitching, I guess. But like you look at Daniel Nunez coming back, having some strong outings, and it looks like he might get Tommy John. Same thing with Max Kranick, who we had our eyes on as early as spring training this year. And obviously, I'm blanking on his name right now. The guy with the AJ Minter. Jesus.
Yes, there we go. You didn't give me enough to help you out. You just like looked up into the sky, and I'm like,
I know.
Jack,
I
can't help you here.
But AJ Minter was a tough loss. And so clearly, when you're relying on other guys, the guys that you have to bring in later in the season to supplement the guys who have already been there, or over rely on some of your higher leverage relievers like the Reed Garretts, like the Huascar Brazabans, the cracks start to show. And with I think Chris Davinsky is a good start. He has been solid in recent outings for the Mets. I think, like you said, though, a couple more guys, a couple more bullpen arms are going to be able to take a lot of the pressure off of the high leverage guys. And hopefully, in addition with the return of Manaea and Senga to this rotation, you might get to see more depth from the starting rotation and less reliance on the bullpen down the stretch. And that would be a huge boon for the Mets going down the home stretch of this regular season.
The All-Star game, we got to see all 4 Mets who were invited to the All-Star game contribute. It was fun to see while Peterson was on the mound, Lindor get to throw to Alonso to make it out. That was just cool.
Peterson having a pitcher fielding play with Alonso as well.
Just fun. Edwin Diaz, sure. Okay. I guess he blew a save in the All-Star game. Yeah, I'm sure that's how it's going to go down. Through 100 in this game, that was certainly encouraging. I don't know if it was occurring throughout the whole game. I only noticed it when Edwin was throwing. He broke the pitch tracking software for Fox. I don't know if you even noticed this, but when he was throwing his fastball, it was registering as a slider. When he threw the 91-mile-an-hour slider, it registered as the 4-seam, and I was like, that's not how this works. You've got that backwards, Fox broadcast.
Right.
So Edwin Diaz out there breaking stuff. But the All-Star game, a big talking point because of, and we didn't get to see Pete participate in it, but they had the swing off, the home run derby to break the tie in extras. And I know this is probably going to bother a lot of people. It's going to tick some people off. I wouldn't mind if they made this the new way to solve ties in extra innings. Now, I don't think you immediately go to it the way they did in the All-Star game. I still think you play some regular innings of baseball. I think the nice thing that you could do, the nice happy medium, is you go back to the old way where there was not a runner at second base. You just played actual baseball, and you do that for 3 innings, so a third of a regular game. And then in the 13th, if we're still tied, then you go to the swing off. And to add the strategy element to it, the swing off has to be with people that are still in the lineup when we get to the swing off. And listen, this is no different than what they do by putting a runner at second base. It's just as gimmicky. It's more entertaining. It would be more drama filled. I mean, people can't stop buzzing about the swing off, the drama that it created. And I had so much fun. I was out at a place where definitely some casual sports fans who did not know what was coming were enjoying, and they loved it. And to me, that's the biggest endorsement that you could get if you're baseball.
I mean, you think about what casual fans enjoy when it comes to baseball, and it's guys hitting home runs, it's stingers. The home run derby is one of the it is a bigger event than the All-Star game generally because it's just hours of guys hitting the ball over the fence.
Well, I'd like to see them hit the home runs over the fence. That would be nice if ESPN could
Well,
let me see them hit the home runs over the fence. That'd be great.
That's true too. Yeah. But to have that swing off in the All-Star game, it was such a cool concept to have it be like the first time they were doing it. A lot of when I was growing up, there was always like a discussion about extra innings in baseball being a pretty unique way of doing things instead of other games that have timed overtime regulation with NBA and NFL. Baseball having just extra innings and letting you play as many times as you can until there's no ties. I always heard people buzzing about what if the Mets, what if MLB did a home run derby to end baseball games that were tied, similar to penalty shootouts in, say, hockey or soccer. And to see it happen the way that it did, with 3 batters on each team getting 3 swings each, was just such a fun way to do it. And to have that back and forth kind of, not camaraderie, but like a little bit of a rivalry banter between the two sides, the gamesmanship to a certain extent that you can envision with who these managers are going to pick to be their swing off guys. Having Pete Alonso, for example, being your anchor, a 2-time home run derby champion, and so it was very cool to have that be a part of the game. And I think as far as all-star games go, MLB is doing it better than other sports right now.
They also had the ABS challenge system in the All-Star game.
That was a fun moment with Diaz as well at the end of his outing.
Right. And I know us diehard baseball fans, we saw this in spring, but there are some people out there that watched that game last night, didn't watch spring training, didn't see this system in place, and got to see it for the first time. And I don't know how your takeaway isn't that the game needs this immediately. You want further proof of how good and cool the swing off was last night? I was reading a athletic story right before we hopped on here, and Jason Stark asked Logan Webb, pitcher for the Giants, about it and said, quote, "Is this a good way to decide a game or a crazy way to decide a game?" And Webb responded by saying, "I've got a group text going with a couple of other players around baseball, and they said that we should never play an extra inning game again. Just do it like that." Jason Stark followed up and said, "So we just fixed baseball?" And then Webb said, "Yeah, I think so." That's a player in the game. That is a player who's been playing baseball his whole life, grew up with the game, saying that's what we should be doing. And again, you don't do this in the postseason. I don't think you do it right away. I think you bridge the gap by playing a couple of innings. But I asked this to a buddy today. If they put this in place, each team, this happens 4-5 times over the course of a season, especially if you make it like the 13th inning, it's not going to happen. How many games are going to end before that via a walk-off, right? And so to me, something that's going to maybe happen less than 3% of the time should not stop me, if people are upset about it, from doing what I think overall the majority of baseball fans will enjoy. So I don't know. I liked it. If they entertained it and they wanted to have that conversation, I think I would be on board. I like this more than I like the golden at bat rule. And I like the golden at bat rule, but I like this way more than that. Especially because of the drama that it brought in. The Mets start a 3-game series this week, starting on Friday. I will be in attendance for the games over the weekend. It's also David Wright retirement day on Saturday. Now, Jack, did you see what happened on
you about this?
Okay, did you see what happened on social media today?
Twitter was abuzz about a certain video.
Yes, so a video was posted on the MLB.com website.
Yes,
and the title of the video were "Captains of the New York Mets."
Right.
And in this video, it obviously talks a lot about David Wright because his ceremony is coming up, number getting retired, going into the Mets Hall of Fame. There's just a lot of stuff going around David Wright this week. But at the end of the video, this video that's on MLB.com, not a fan video, produced, put together, and then posted on the website, published for the masses to see, starts talking about Francisco Lindor being the next, potentially getting that C and being the captain of the New York Mets. And so there's a lot of buzz on social media that, do the Mets perhaps know something that we don't? Is perhaps some news going to come down here this weekend? A baton being passed in some sorts. Now, what's interesting, this video has now been removed from MLB.com. So did somebody push a button too early? I know somebody who works at MLB. I'll ask him. Maybe he pushed the button a little too early accidentally on this? But what is going on with potentially Francisco Lindor becoming the next captain of the New York Mets?
So I did see this. I had the same takes as a lot of people on Mets Twitter did, which is the timing feels right. David Wright's getting his number retired on Saturday on the 19th. It's going to be a big day to honor number 5 and all of his contributions to the Mets, the last captain the Mets have ever had. And Francisco Lindor, for the last 5 years now, has done everything that Mets fans and the players and the team would want in a captain to represent the face of the franchise. And obviously Lindor is going to be there on Saturday and David Wright's going to be there. And so it seems like the right time to kind of have this passing of the torch moment as you retire David Wright's number and you name Francisco Lindor the new captain of the Mets. It's very interesting that they deleted the video because I don't think I would have thought too much of it because it was speculation. It was a snippet from, I think, Ron Darling.
Yes.
Had said something in the past. But for MLB to post it and then take it down makes me think there's something a little extra here.
4 team captains in team franchise history. Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter were co-captains in the 80s. John Franco in the early 2000s, and then David Wright in 2013 to 2018. The only pushback that I would potentially have to this, and I've seen people have this pushback, is Saturday should be about David Wright. It should not be about Francisco Lindor. And if there's any player on the face of this planet that would want to make sure that he has nothing to do with this day, it is Francisco Lindor. Like, if he was told today, hey, we're gonna make you the next captain of the New York Mets and we're gonna announce it on Saturday, he would say, don't do it on Saturday. He would say, make that day about David. So my thought is, if these things are going to be tied in together, here's what I think happens. This gets announced on Friday before the game to start the Cincinnati series. They make this announcement, and then during his speech on Saturday, David has a line in there where he kind of passes the torch to Francisco, and then we kind of move on. Because I don't think what they're going to do is on Saturday drop the press release while everybody's buzzing about David Wright and saying, hey, we're naming Francisco Lindor the 5th captain in Mets history. I think it's going to happen on Friday. There's going to be a day on Friday to kind of celebrate Francisco to kick off the weekend, and then Saturday will be about David and retiring his number. That's how I think if they're going to do this. They should do it. It's a no-brainer. I mean, he should be the captain. He already is the captain of the team, whether or not he has the C or not. There is something superficial about having the C anyway. He is the captain. This is Francisco Lindor's team. But yeah, Twitter was a buzz today about this social media clip and this video that was posted on MLB.com and then removed. Then taken down. And I think
removed.
When you take it down, that's when you kind of admit that you made a mistake. Yeah, the Brian Windhorst. Why would they do that?
Why would they do that?
Why would they do that? So yeah, obviously something to keep an eye on here over the next couple of days. And
we, Chris, will both be at Saturday's game.
That's right.
David Wright's number retirement ceremony.
Right.
So I will see you there.
Yeah, we will have to meet up at some point during the game. It would be a disappointment and a shame if we are in the same building and we don't find a way to at least say hello to each other for 2 seconds. We're going to be there all day anyway. We might as well carve out a little time to say hello. Your early thoughts here on the rumors that are circulating about the Mets. I saw, I think it was Mark Healy this morning tweeting out that the Mets aren't going to be targeting a starting pitcher ahead of the trade deadline, which again has been in line with the stuff that we've said here on this pod in terms of how we think the team should attack the deadline. But your early kind of thoughts is the Mets really, truthfully, haven't been linked to a lot of individual players at this point. It has been relatively quiet on that front. So somewhat in the dark on what their plans may be ahead of the deadline in 15 days.
I think I look back at the 2024 deadline and I felt like that looked, in terms of PR and media, very similarly to how this deadline is looking so far. Again, we're still 2 weeks out, a little more than 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a day out from the actual deadline. But I seem to remember last year, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there wasn't a lot of buzz about specific players the Mets were tied to. It kind of seemed like the Stearns regime has been more willing to keep things under wraps and not trying to generate any hype or show their hand and kind of let the asking price of certain players stay where they are and not get into some kind of bidding war with other teams who, maybe need some of the same things. Every team would like more bullpen arms. Every team would like maybe an extra power bat in their lineup. And so if the Mets have their eyes on a guy, maybe it behooves them to not really show who that would be and let the media know before the trade is finalized.
Yeah, the other thing that I would add to this, and this to some is a big knock of David Stearns, I don't think it is. I think it's one of his greatest strengths, is he doesn't go big game hunting. And so there is a relative quietness about what the Mets do because they're not linked to Eugenio Suarez. They're not linked to stupid Paul Skeens rumors. They're not linked to the big names that are being floated out there. Because do you remember the stupid period of time where people thought the Angels were going to trade Ohtani?
Yes.
Like when a big player like that gets mentioned, the Mets just aren't kind of linked to them because David Stearns, to your point, likes to work in quiet, doesn't go for the big names, likes to make moves on the margins, doesn't really, if he feels like he's got a good core group in place, he doesn't like to upset the apple cart. He doesn't like to bring in a huge, big personality or a big name that's now going to throw off a bunch of the dynamic. He looks to supplement. The trade deadline is for supplementing your roster. It's not for a major overhaul of your roster. That's what the winter is for. And that is very clearly the way David Stearns chooses to conduct himself. Big projects, offseason, winter time. Small tweaks, things on the margins, raising the floor, giving yourself a better chance when it comes to October. That's the stuff that David Stearns prioritizes. And so that's why it's quiet, because they're just going to take some reliever that no one's even talking about, and that's going to be their big bullpen acquisition, right? Like, was anybody talking about Ryan Stanek ahead of the deadline as a big name that was going to be moved?
Or
no.
Phil Maton.
Right, but those are the
Oscar
moves.
Brazoban.
And guess what? Those moves worked out pretty well in 2024. And Brazoban's doing pretty well here in 2025 overall this season. So again, that's just kind of the way he operates. And so it lends itself for it to be a more quiet approach for the Mets.
I think I would also point to potentially, Chris, Steve Cohen's comments early in his tenure as owner of the Mets and trying to model this team after what the Dodgers have done in the last couple of decades, which is not prospect hugging, but making sure that you're developing the guys that you believe in and holding on to them rather than feeling like I really need to make a big splash. Jet Williams, Brandon Sproat, you name them, see ya. We need to get help right now and make the moves. The Mets need to continue to build up this farm system that over the first 3-ish years of the 2020s kind of got a little bit depleted with some of the big moves for Javi Baez and for XYZ player Chris Bassett and Starling Marte. And I mean, those Marte was a free agent, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
making sure that you're still building from within, making sure you have players that you can develop and bring up rather than focusing entirely on outside acquisitions, like you're saying, building on the margins instead of ruffling up the core.
Yeah. And listen, we have admitted fully that we are David Stearns pilled on this podcast. Like, I just fully believe in the philosophy that Stearns tries to put together. And I do think there are some misconceptions about the way he philosophically tries to build a baseball team. Like the biggest one, and I'm waiting for the moment where he's able to prove everybody wrong on this, but there's this idea that he doesn't believe in getting a big name starting pitcher, right? Well, no, he doesn't believe in spending big money on a free agent starting pitcher, but you betcha if Jonah Tong or Nolan McLean are great, that he's going to sign those guys to long-term extensions and get those peak years under contract. Yes. Yeah. So you're going to get your big starting pitching contract. It's just not going to be the way everybody else does it. And so, again, I think there are some misconceptions about the way that he chooses to build. But there are two prospects, and I've said this before, and I'm on record with this, and I'm very consistent. There are two prospects I wouldn't trade. Anybody else I think is fair game. I wouldn't trade Jet Williams, and I wouldn't trade Nolan McLean. Those are the two prospects I would not trade. Somebody wants to talk to me about Brandon Sproat or Jonah Tong or Carson Benj, like, fine. Like, let's have those conversations. I will move anybody but those two players that I mentioned. But again, the thing the Mets try to do is they don't try to swim in those waters at the deadline. They will not, because Jet Williams this deadline gets the Mets less than Jet Williams being available in the winter.
Yeah.
And David Stearns is always making that calculation. He is always deciding, if I give up this prospect, not only is there an opportunity cost of what that prospect could mean for me, but also what am I not going to be able to do in the winter because now I don't have that chip in front of me. And so he's constantly balancing the short and long term. And so I think, again, it's going to be very just raise the floor on the margins moves. It's probably going to tick a lot of people off. I don't think there's that big splash coming. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I think they're going to make moves. They're going to improve this team. It's just not going to be these big, grandiose Juan Soto-esque moves that, people want this time of year. The projected starters for the Mets this weekend, it is Clay Holmes against Nick Lodolo on Friday. I did not realize this. Maybe shame on me as a podcaster about this team for not knowing this. Did not realize I'm getting Sean Manaea's first home start in the game that we are seeing on Saturday. Sean Manaea listed as the projected starter on Saturday. So doubly excited now that I get to see Sean Manaea for the first time in person in a Mets uniform. Nick Martinez goes for the Reds in that one. And then on Sunday, it is David Peterson against Andrew Abbott to close out this series against Cincinnati. I mean, 3 great pitchers, a not so great so-so Reds team. You get the Angels right coming out of that series. I mean, 6 games coming up for the New York Mets where they can really start the second half off on a good foot.
Yeah, Reds are coming off of a split with the Marlins and then a 2 out of 3 from the Rockies right before the All-Star break. So not a team that's necessarily hot because they've been winning games against good teams. It's just the nature of the schedule, and the Mets have a nice chance to start on the right foot after their series win against the Royals to end the first half.
That is going to do it for us here on this edition of the Bleav in Mets podcast. If you are new or if you're a longtime listener, please rate, review, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share the show with a friend. We greatly would appreciate that. You want to catch the video version of the show, you can do so over on YouTube. Just search Jack McKessie, McKessy. Don't know the next time you're going to hear from us because there's some travel involved with both of us being able to get to these games. I am traveling back from the series on Sunday. So probably Monday will be the time that this episode drops ahead of that Angel series. We'll try to get a quick one out there. If you see us at the ballpark, please say hello. Please stop by, chat with us. We would love to talk Mets baseball with you. So if you are going to the games and you do happen to bump into us, don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. Please come over and say hello. Very much looking forward to catching some Mets baseball in person. And David Wright retirement day. It's going to be a super fun day. Super excited. Sean Manaea on the mound. I mean, the Mets got to win that one. Just on principle. Got to win that game. But should be a fun weekend all around to start the second half of the year. But that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the program. We appreciate you joining us. We're back early next week to get you set for the Angel series and to recap everything that happens against the Cincinnati Reds. As always, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.